Here we are, we're at a typical retrofit installation where we have an ET clock. This one happens to be a Toro IntelliSense. We have a water meter from the street that they get billed on, a backflow preventer, and then we have our Netafim hydrometer, which is a master valve, a water meter, and a flow sensor all in one unit. And the advantages are that there are 0 upstream and 0 downstream straight pipe requirements. It fits in one box and it goes right over to the clock. It's very accurate and it's repeatable. And the key is repeatability and accuracy because it eliminates false alarms. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the hydrometer itself. This one happens to be a 2-inch unit here on this installation. The major components are the register, the solenoid, and the 3-way selector. And some of the advantages of the 3-way selector and the solenoid I'm going to explain in just a minute. First of all, the register. One nice thing about this is the register has a non-volatile record of all the water that's gone through the meter ever since it was installed. The other thing is that when you're comparing the flow rate to the clock, the dials are moving, so it's easy to tell whether water is flowing through and also how much water is flowing through, so you can make sure that you have your K factor and offset set correctly. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the valve itself. The 3-way selector, very nice tool for doing diagnostic work. If we want to establish whether the valve opens or closes, we can turn it to the closed position and the valve should close. We turn it to the open position, the valve opens. Now we've established that the valve is functioning properly. So now we turn it to the auto position. Now the solenoid has control of the valve. The solenoid also has a bypass on it. So when it's in this position, straight up with the solenoid, now when it gets energized, the valve functions. We can bypass that by turning a little lever. It just pushes the plunger up. Okay, so it gives us gives us more ability to do diagnostics. Okay, here is the register now. Water is actually flowing through this right now, and you can see the dials moving. One nice thing about the hydrometer compared to other flow sensors is most other flow sensors don't have any ability to tell whether water is flowing in or out. There's just 2 wires that come out from the flow sensor. With ours, you can see the water's going through, and we can actually take a stopwatch here and get a very accurate rate of flow that's going through the meter. And here again is the 3-way selector. You can see that the solenoid is controlling the water now. If we wanted to turn this off, we would turn it around to the closed position, and you can see water goes off. You can see the dials are not moving. Now we can turn it on. There we go. You can see the dials are now moving. The water's flowing through we're turning it over now. The solenoid is controlling it. And there you go. Now, one other key thing here is that this is a photodiode, which means that there's a little light beam that's being broken, and that's how we create the pulse for the clock. So if there's light out, the clock may not read it unless the cap is totally closed to prevent light from interfering with that photodiode. So we keep the cap closed. Okay, now we're over here at the clock. This just happens to be a Toro IntelliSense clock. It's a smart controller, and we're going to turn it on, and so you can see that what the flow rate is. We've got we're going to turn on a zone manually. I think it's zone 13. And it happens to be a rotor zone, and it's somewhere between 15 and 30 gallons a minute. We're going to see 13. There we go. And now we're going to put a little time on the clock. It should turn on. Okay. Now, in order to see this, we're going to turn it over to the flow, and you can see that as the flow rate comes up, there we are. We're on 20. It's showing displaying 22.9. or 21.9 to 22.3 gallons a minute. Okay? The key thing here is we're going to turn it off again, and we're going to turn it back on. We're going to show you that it's also repeatable, so that you can get very meaningful alarms. So here the system is on, running, and it seems like we're pretty stable now at right at around 22 gallons a minute. Okay? Okay, now we showed you a zone that was approximately 22 gallons a minute, and this is a 2-inch hydrometer, keep in mind. Now we're going to put it on a very low flow, a drip zone, where other flow sensors wouldn't have a chance at measuring this kind of water reasonably. So we're going to turn it on, and you're going to see that the drip zone is now starting up. So we got a fairly high flow as the pipes fill up, so we do have to program in a delay. Okay, and then you're going to see the flow get down to very, very low flows, around 3 gallons a minute or so. And our flow sensor can measure this very accurately, very repeatably. Okay, we turned off the water, now we just turned it on again, and we're going to let it balance out, and then you will see that we are right around the same flow rate, 21.9 to 22.5 gallons a minute. And that gives us the ability to put very tight alarms on this clock and have with confidence that we're not going to get false alarms. Yeah, let's go sell some water meters.